Is the Nikon FM the greatest film camera ever made? Yes. If you want to stick around for a slightly longer explanation, this is completely off the cuff and kind of from my own experiences and usage, and it may be a little bit biased, but bear with me. If you're new to the channel, my name's John Sparkman. I'm a photographer from Birmingham in the UK. I've been shooting cameras since about 2010, and although this channel is primarily digital cameras and flashes and gear review, I sometimes scatter in some film photography, and the reason why is because my first job that got me into kind of photography was in a printing lab. Now in this lab I started in 2010 and I finished in 2016, so I kind of saw the demise of film photography. We were doing 30, 40, 50 rolls of film a day. It was a consumer shop, it wasn't pro grade, but we kind of blurred the lines between high-end prints and service and kind of high street pricing. So we would do loads of films for students, we were doing for professional wedding photographers, and although kind of by 2014 we were down to 2 rolls a day, sometimes even none, we then saw the resurgence and we saw, you know, it started picking back up again when companies like Lomo started bringing out cameras again. We started to see the new 55 project, we started to see Portra being kind of revived again, and obviously all those wedding photographers shooting Fuji and 400H and medium format cameras. So yeah, they still are very valid forms of photography. If you're new to the photography game, maybe you're like a student, or maybe you're trying to pick up a real good quality camera. My first camera, which I actually got in 2005 when I was doing a college degree in film photography, was the Nikon FM. This is my dad's Nikon FM, so he gave it to me, very nice of him. And this camera he equipped with a couple of lenses, 50mm, 28mm, 105, and I think there was a wide angle lens in there somewhere. My dad was a landscape photographer, and you know, I've got his slides in some storage boxes. He used to do some kind of presentations, and I think he did a slideshow in Japan, which was pretty nice. But the Nikon FM is your kind of your basic 35mm camera. 35mm film is that standard one that comes in a metal canister and it kind of pulls out one side. You can get between 24 and 36 shots per roll, sometimes a little bit more if you're careful. And it kind of is very similar to the sensor size of modern day cameras, mirrorless and DSLR. So it's kind of that 1 inch by a little bit bigger rectangle. Back then you could actually pick up a roll of film for like £2 and develop it for £5. Nowadays it's more like £8 for a roll of film, £10 for developing, a bit more to scan. Sometimes you might want to scan it at home, buy a scanner, £400 later. But it's worth mentioning that the camera, the physical camera, not the lens, doesn't do very much to impact your overall kind of photographic quality. It's more about user experience and settings in the right places, kind of the quality of the shutter on the inside, the mirror, and just kind of the price points. Now the Nikon FM is a mechanical model. There was the FE, which was electronic. As these are from the 80s, the electronics were pretty basic, to be fair, compared to modern day standard. But the beautiful thing about the FM body, doesn't require batteries to work. The only thing the batteries actually do is control the internal light meter. If you need to use that, then it will flick up and down inside the viewfinder to let you know if it's too dark or too bright. However, you can use various other things. There's light meters inside smartphones nowadays, external light meters, there's a Sunny 16 rule. So you can actually take this out with no batteries inside of it and still take an entire roll of film. The body as well, as far as I know anyway, and it's pretty beat up, is made of brass. You can see that this has taken quite a bit of damage over the years, and it's got this kind of glistening gold shining through. Makes it nice and heavy as well, and this has been dropped lots over my tenure having it, and probably my dad as well. And there's only a couple of dents on it. It still works absolutely fine. It will take the Nikon AI or AIS mount lenses. These have been made since like the 50s, 60s. Anything but the new G series, which requires electronics, they'll all fit, so you get this vast array of Nikon lenses that you can fit on here. It's a very simple camera. You only have a couple of settings. You've got a shutter lock on the top, so you can lock this ring around the shutter button to stop it from firing. You've got your winder, which gives that real satisfying kind of clicking. There we go, have a little listen to that. Lovely. Nice. You've got the shutter dial at the top, which is going to give you your selection of shutter speeds from bulbs, so just open as long as you're holding down a kind of a shutter release. 1 second to all the way up to 1,000th of a second. You've also got the ASA, which nowadays is called ISO. Inside it, you just pop the little ring on the outside of the shutter dial up, and you can move that around. You match that to your speed of the film you're putting in. So if your film says it's 400 ISO, change that to 400 ISO, and the light meter inside, providing you've got a battery, will react and give you the correct meter readings. The shutter speed's got a 125, which is written in red. That's the sync speed, so if you're using a flash, you can shoot up to 125th of a second and you'll be able to see all of the picture. If you shoot faster than that, sometimes you get like a black bar in the images where the mirrors and the shutters haven't gotten out of the way by the time the shutter has closed and the flash is fired. On the back, you've got a little metal square, and you can just fit in the end piece of the box of film. Normally you would slide that in, that would say what film you've got inside, because obviously when it's in there you have no idea. So that would say 400 TX or whatever it is. And on the top left, you've got the rewind spool here, which is just to get your film backwards, so you can pop it out without ruining it. Just to the left, you've got a release. You just push it and then pull the release button out. Mine's a bit stiff, so there we go. On the inside, we've got a metal curtain. Some of the older ones have a cloth curtain. These can degrade pretty badly. And also the cloth ones have a very slow sync speed, things like the Pentax 6.7. So they might not be great if you're trying to use a flash, but these are nice and active. In near 40-50 years of this existing, they've never been damaged, they've never needed service. You've got the wind-ons, you've got the back plate, which just applies even pressure to the film when it's inside. And yeah, that's it. I mean, you can even take this back off if you wish. Just like that. You can get these swapped out, and you can upgrade this FM just a little bit if you need to. You've got a removable diopter at the back as well, so if you need to have like a magnification, or you want a hooded sports one, for instance, you can just screw that on. Can't remove the top. This prism is fixed in there, and I'll be honest, my prism, it needs a service. It's very dirty. There's got glue marks and stuff, but you can see through it. It's not the mirror, because I can see the mirror now, but it's inside there as a bit more of an expensive service. Lenses for an FM are dirt cheap, and they're plentiful, as I said. They also, you know, the old ones are really good. I actually use the 105 2.5 lens by Nikon with my Fujifilm cameras. It gives me like I think it's about 150 f3 or so. Range is a nice cheap alternative to a telephoto lens when I don't have to buy one. So that's great. The thing is indestructible. It's probably had several hundred rolls of film put through it, and they're cheap. I mean, they go for about £100 max, which is great. And you see students using quite often the Pentax K1000, very similar kind of camera. You've got the mechanical parts of it, the indestructible nature of it, and cheap to buy online because they're made in the many thousands. Personally, the Nikon FM is the one I've chosen. If I was to go for a camera and there was kind of no budget for a film camera and I wanted 35mm, I wouldn't go for a Leica. I'd actually go for the Nikon F3. A few models up, the Pro series from this, a little red stripe on it. It's a very nice camera. It's very sleek, modernistic style. If I was to go for any film camera, it'd be a Hasselblad 500cm. Again, used to own one, sold it. I had to pay off some student loans. But that was a lovely camera. But, you know, paying £1,000 for a Hasselblad, the pictures aren't better than a £200 Mamiya or a Bronica. It's just a nicer experience, and it's the craftsmanship and the design and everything like that. It just gives it an elevated kind of style to it. It's a style icon, a bit like a Leica then. That's just a real quick rundown of a Nikon FM. I'm obviously biased because it's my own dad's camera that he gave to me, and the first one that got me on this career of then doing full-time photography for a few years, doing a master's in photography, and keeping at this passion project, you know, throughout the entire decade. So, you know, thanks for that camera. If you like gear and all these kind of reviews and just having a little look back at the history of certain things, stick around and subscribe. If you use Nikon gear, let me know which ones you got in the system. Obviously, don't mention digital ones because I don't deal with digital Nikons for now, but see you in a future video.